Alright, what's up everyone? Welcome back to the channel. This will be part 2 of the Jeep head gasket job we had going on, which should be the same as all the Chryslers and Dodges with the 3.6s in them. Real quick before we get started here, I was just going to go over some stuff. The block's all cleaned up and flat now. You want to check that with a plane or something with a flat surface. There was more sludge down on the bottom. I cleaned all that up as good as we could. I'll probably have him do an oil change within 3,000 to 5,000 miles in, which to me is good practice after you have an engine tore apart anyways, in case you got contaminants in there. But I'm also going to have him run a little bit of a seafoam or something in it to kind of clean the oil out with. Something I like doing before starting here is put number 1 all the way up on dead center, or top dead center. And then as I'm rotating it over, I'll oil up all the cylinder walls again, just so I don't have all the dryness in there, and a little bit of lubricity on first startup, because all that was cleaned up with brake clean. Heads came back, everything was checked out. It was checked for cracks, and they milled, I think 5 thousandths off the deck, so they weren't too bad. They did end up removing the exhaust studs that we broke, so thank them for that. All the parts are cleaned up, all the new gaskets are put in. And then with that being said, also, we're still waiting on the rockers and lifters. They're not here yet, which they should be here today, actually. I'm going to let the lifters soak in oil, which is good practice for hydraulic lifters. So let them sit for at least probably 2 hours to an hour. The one thing I did notice is the gasket kit we bought, I think, was an Engine Tech gasket kit. All the gaskets look really good. I used the head gaskets on the Chrysler I did, and I'm not scared really to run their kit. The only thing I did notice is it came with this rubber gasket, which shouldn't be a rubber gasket. It should be a gasket like this where it has the rubber molded into a metal piece, which is for the crossover tube. We'll walk back over there here in a sec. And it did not come with the new PVC O-ring or this O-ring that's on the timing cover. So if you buy this kit, just know you have to buy them separate. And then if you have this style gasket that you needed and they gave you a rubber one, you will also have to purchase that. We got the new head bolts and we got the new timing chain for it also. But besides that, we're pretty well got all of our parts here and ready to go. This is the part I'm talking about, but as you can see, there ain't a groove cut in it for the rubber O-ring to sit, so. And then this is the, right there, that's where the O-ring sat. They didn't provide it, so you have to buy that. New seal and everything put in this already, so we're good to go. See what else there is. I did also purchase the timing toolkit, which we'll see. It's just a bunch of plastic pieces, so you might be able to get away without buying that, but it was $26 off Amazon. So with that being said, we'll get started here. We're gonna go ahead and set the heads on it. Can't forget on this side here, you have to put the exhaust manifold back on it and then stick it all back down through there. And then we'll do that side and go and get all that thrown back together. We'll get the fender thrown on that side and then put the clips all back in it. And then from there, we're kind of stuck until we let the lifters saturate in oil and the rockers and stuff get here. So let's get started here. All right, so we oiled down the cylinders, wiped it all in there, spun it around a couple times, made sure everything spun freely, check out the cylinder walls, which I did that before too. Just one last check before we throw it back together. We got everything up over the side again. Need a bungee strap to hold the fuse box over so it don't fall back in as we're setting the head in. Make sure your head gaskets are correct. All your holes are lining up. This one also says R down here in this lower tab, bottom left. If you're looking at it from the side, the angle you're looking at it, it'll be at the bottom left with a little tab hanging out. It has an R. It'll face up. You just double check that. You don't want to have to go back in here and do this job again. So let's throw this head back on. Also, if you can see it, make sure you're putting your knock sensor and everything back in there. On this head there is a ground strap. It has to be hooked back up right here. So just don't forget about that stuff. Double check the outer perimeter, make sure your gasket didn't come out of the dowels. But as long as you have it pressed down, it shouldn't really have came out. Alright, so this is all personal preference. I tend to put a little bit of oil at the very bottom of the threads, just a little tiny bit. I put a little bit around the head washer too, but that's after I drop them in there. Alright, so for this first round of torque will be 25 foot-pounds. I actually probably should look up the procedure, but this one ain't gonna matter too much. It's just kind of get everything seated, but I'm gonna go in a circle, work your way out. Alright, so I lied. The first torque sequence is 22 foot-pounds. The second is 33. Alright, so we just got back from AutoZone. I had to go buy this. I needed one. Just a cheap one. Put it on your bolt. Place this against something so it won't turn. That'll hold. You twist your bolt. And then it'll give you the degrees. What else? I also managed to track down one of the 3 gaskets. So here's that one. Here's the part number if you need it. That was from AutoZone. That is a water outlet gasket. We still did not find the PCV valve gasket. And we're still missing the little O-ring that goes on the timing cover. So I'm going to keep trying to track them down. I do have a local Mopar dealership up the road, so I might give them a call, see if they can't help me out with that. But just want to show you that. So we're going to go back to torquing these. We did the 22 and the 33. The next is 35 degrees. Alright, so that's the third step. Fourth step is 90 degrees. Alright, so now that you got all them torqued down, spin them all back loose and do it all again. Except the only difference between doing it this time and the first time is whenever you're degreeing it, your first degree is 40 degrees instead of 33. And then you got 90 after that. So we're going on to the degreeing the bolts again. First one's 40 degrees. I would not recommend this because this one sucks. But it is what we got, so we're going to work with it. It's pretty simple to operate, but it's just aggravating. You got a black line on it. Hold that. Zero it up. Okay. So technically this should probably sit on something flat on the motor, but trying to find a consistent place to set something on the 0 degree mark is going to be a nightmare, so we're just going to hold it like we were. What I'm going to do is whenever you hold this and you spin it, it'll spin the dial under it up to 40 degrees. So pretty simple to operate. Alright, so you guys get the point. I'm going to finish this up and then we'll move on to the next part. Alright, so that head is done, fully torqued, everything's degreed. We're going to move back over to this side here. start, I guess we're still waiting on rockers. They did not show up today, so I can't finish with the top end, but we can go ahead and get this wiring all ran and get that air box and stuff put back in it. So that's what I'm gonna work on now. All right, so we got this box all put back in here now. Couple little key points. There's a ground right here. It runs underneath the fuse box. Then you got your evap solenoid, purge solenoid, whatever goes there. This little thing here will go in this hole right here for that clip. Hook it all back up. You're done. We got the manifold back on the head. So how I did it in the easiest way is that one bolt that's in here behind the fitting back down in here. You can torque that all the way down before you even set the head in there. Leave this side loose on the bottom. Set your cat down in the, you'll see it won't really go all the way down in there, just get it started. And then you can take a hammer and literally just tap it right here and it should start going down. And you just tap it into place until you can get the top bolts in. Once you get them in, tighten everything down, you're good to go. Now we need to drop down on the other side and put the new bolts in. Not these ones, but we got new ones here for it. So we need to put those in, and then the exhaust is all ran again. Still waiting on rockers. So what we can do is I can pull that off and I can put the first intake adapter on it. And then honestly, that's as far as we can go because we can't put the timing chain or nothing like that on it. So all right, so that's as far as we can go now until the rockers show up in the mail. And like I said, submerge them in oil. You don't want to just throw them right in. But we got our intake put back on. The don't forget about that ground strap back there, and it goes. Hopefully you can see that all right. The air compressor's back, or the AC compressor's back on. And then we ended up putting the manifold back on too. And where I broke them bolts, just word of the wise, the nuts are welded to that exhaust or that manifold. So if you break them, extract them before you put it back on, because I had to drill them out down there and it would have been 10 times easier to notice that whenever we had it out. But all right, so our lifters finally showed up last night, well, yesterday. We let them soak in oil overnight. So this morning we can go ahead and install them, put our camshafts and everything back in. So I'll set you guys up and we'll put the timing chain and all that stuff back on. So as you can see, that dimple down there, I'll highlight it in the video, but it's lined up with the main cap, where the main cap meets the block. And that is where you want your crankshaft to be at. All right, so as you can see now, we gotta take the oil pan off so we can get to the bottom pulleys there. We already took the oil pump sprocket bolt out, which is a T40. And then we took the idler arm here. We took the bolt out of it already. So you can just pop it out like so. And then this tension down here should just flip out of our way. There's the tensioner. There's the oil sprocket and chain. There will be arrows. There's arrows on these. That arrow is pointing in. That arrow will also point in. And then you got your two timing marks up on top. And then you're good. Look at this side. The arrow is pointing out, but that line arrows are pointing out on both sides, but the lines are facing each other, and then the timing marks are on top again. And then another way to make sure it's all right is you want all your holes facing up. So once you make sure all of them are in the correct orientation, you're ready to put it all back together. And then your dimple on the crank, don't forget about it. So this will have 2 blue marks, 1 gold, blue on the cams, gold down on the crank. So just line these up. So right there you see how it slopped? We're going to have to correct that. So we need to spin one of these, preferably this one, 1-hole tooth. So let's do that. Alright, so this side's now done. See, we're lined up there. There. We got our guide just sitting in place. We should be able to get the tensioner in here now. And then down here, you see the gold link, and then right under that, I don't know if you can see the paint marker. It's good practice to paint it just so you know you're lined up. It's easier to see. So we're all good on this side, so now we can go and put the tensioner on it, and then we're ready to rock and roll. All right, so just a little tip. To get this, there we go. To get this tensioner in here, tensioner guide, whatever you want to call it, leave this out. And honestly, you can probably go ahead and leave that out too. And before putting them in, because in order to get this in here, and it has to slide on this rod, but it's also like U-shaped around the chain. You slide this pulley out or gear out and pull that one down there all the way out. And then whenever it's out so far, this will literally just slip down over the chain, and then you can push it back onto that rod, and then everything will push back in together. So all right, so everything's torqued up, pins are all pulled on the tensioners. We're just putting the oil pump sprocket back on now. There is a mark on the chain and there is a dimple on the gear, but from what I've looked up, it don't matter on where that is. It's not necessarily timed to anything, so you just slide it back on there. There was something that I didn't mention. My dipstick I could not get out, which is the whole reasoning why I had to bend it out of the way. So I had to cut this with a brake line cutter. So we'll have to clean all this up, and then I'll have to figure out what I'm gonna do here. Whether it's TIG it back together, or might just put a hose with 2 couplers on it, or might actually, while it's out, I'm gonna go ahead and try to break the bottom of it out of the oil pan, but might have to just order a new one depending on how much they are. But let me get this finished up and I'll set you guys back up, and then we can silicone all this and get the front cover put back on. But with that being said, the most important thing here is making sure everything is clean completely of oil. So make sure there's no oil on any of these surfaces, because the silicone will not stick to it and you will have a leak. So make sure everything is cleaned off very well, and use acetone, alcohol, or brake clean, something that won't leave a residue behind. All right, so that valve cover is obviously a nightmare to put back on there. Pretty sure we got it on there right. Kind of popped down in place. I'm hoping it just popped down past it, didn't break nothing. But I'm gonna scope it out just to double check. That's done. We got the oil dipstick back in. What else do we need to do? Oil dipstick, and then we're gonna put the what is that? Cam phaser timing solenoids or phaser solenoids, whatever you want to call them. Put them back on, and then after those, I'm gonna go ahead and put the wiring harness where it needs to lay at, and then put the intake back on it. And then once the intake's back on it, actually no, let's put the alternator on, then the intake. And then I'll come back up here, finish up the thermostat, and get the belt routed, and get the water lines all hooked back up, and then we'll be pretty close. All right, so we got it all tidied back up now. We're pretty well done. About to do the first start. We're gonna fill everything up. We got the scanner hooked up to it, so we can monitor oil pressure and all that. But we're putting cool in it now. Just a little trick. I want to do the upper radiator hose first and just leave it loose. You know, pull it back a little bit where there's a little gap, and it'll get the radiator plumb full. And then I do that right here, which is the highest point that I can find, and it'll start sucking all that down. You put it back on there. Around, put a little bit more in it. All right, so unfortunately you guys didn't get to watch the first startup on the car or the Jeep. We topped off the fluids as you've seen in the last video, and I set up the camera, but it died in the middle of it, and the guy already just came and picked it up. I was just editing it and figured out that, you know, the video wasn't seen. But big thing is to, you know, take away from this at the end. Even though we took that line off, that will get the majority of the air bubbles out of the system, but you may still have air bubbles. You just have to watch it. That's why I hook up the scanner to it, so I can actually read the numbers as they're raising as I'm driving it around. Pay very close attention to the numbers because you don't want to overheat it, especially with a new set of head gaskets and everything the first run out. Besides that, everything went well. The guy came and picked it up. He's been driving it now. We're probably 3 weeks in now, so everything's good on it. We already moved on to the next project, but I didn't record this one. We got another new project sitting outside that a new series will come out on. If you guys want to see that, stick around. Hopefully videos will be posted on it in about maybe a month. We got another little side job here to come up, which is another F-150 with the phasers. After that, we will be getting started on the next one. And just a little, you know, tip here, or hint. It's a Cadillac Escalade I just bought. It's gonna be the new another flip car. Probably gonna daily drive it for a little bit to make sure everything, you know, works and stuff how it is. But we drove it here, so that's a plus. But fourth and fifth gears plumb out of it. It won't pull itself at all. So we'll be doing a transmission rebuild on it, which is a 6L80. So stay tuned if you're interested in that. Otherwise, that will be the end of this series here. And I appreciate you guys watching the video, especially if you watched it this far. I know I'm not the best at this, and I'm trying to get better, especially with trying to keep everyone's attention. I try to speed through the videos because I know I don't like watching people talk over and over again. I just like to get straight to the point and see what needs to be done to make something happen. So if you guys have any tips or anything for me, leave them down below, comment. If you would, like and subscribe to the channel. You don't have to watch every video, but if you subscribe, it does help me out so I can keep this going, and hopefully we can get in some really cool projects here after a while. So thanks for watching.